Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Yesterday, I was wondering how to introduce one of the greatest dentists and a person that I know. At the beginning, I was thinking about going through his CV or the list of his titles, but eventually, I would like to introduce him as a father, as a friend, as my colleague, and finally, my boss. Dr. Park, who most of you already know as the CEO and the leader of MegaGen Implants. Also, he's an active practicing periodontist. Dr. Park has been placing implants for over 30 years, so let's say that's since I was born, and has worked with multiple different styles of implants before developing the AnyRidge implant. So that was already like 12 years ago from now. During his practice, he placed more than 50,000 implants over the years. So that's the decent number for the implantologist, as I know. Aside from the inspiring those of who work with him at MegaGen, he has been a mentor for both young and not so young dentists across the globe. Today, he will be showing us something new. He always says to me that it's never too late to learn something else. Also, guys, if you will have any questions, please do not hesitate and write them down in the chat zone. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Dr. Park.
Hello, my friend. It's been a while. We couldn't meet each other face to face. But I really hope you and your family has everything good. And in the near future, we can meet together, definitely. So we planned, MegaGen headquarters planned the series of online lectures for you to give and to share some new clinical concepts with you. So nowadays, I'm talking about the 5 revolutions in implant dentistry and its influence on implant practice and the clinical applications. There are 5 revolutions in my mind recently. The first one is the implant system, and the second one is new drilling systems. And I would mainly talk about the new drilling system today. And the third one is GBI techniques. I believe many of you already know about these techniques. And the fourth revolution is about maximizing the aesthetics, which is root membrane techniques. And digital revolution, we cannot skip. So mainly I'm speaking about these 5 revolutions. But today, I will emphasize mainly on the new drilling implant systems. But before that, as I'd like to point some important revolutions in implant systems, which is the AnyRidge system. You know already very well about the AnyRidge implants, right? It's more accurate and easier and faster, more prognostic and also more profitable. So with these AnyRidge implant systems, you can have very excellent aesthetic results, and soft tissue response is really wonderful. And in many cases, you will have bone overgrowth onto the implant platform, especially when you use a wider core diameter of AnyRidge. So this is the basic drawing. It's a simple drawing of ideal fixtures, which is AnyRidge. Because of these characteristics of on each part of AnyRidge systems, so we can acquire the very ideal result with the implants. So already I talked about the soft tissue responses, but this is really wonderful. I'm a periodontist, so I can do almost every kind of soft tissue management techniques, but nowadays I don't do that because I don't need to do that. So always, in most case, you can have this kind of wonderful, characterized, and aesthetic soft tissue appearance. And another characteristics is here. So because of transition period from the primary stability to secondary stability, we have a drop down of initial stability at third week and the fourth week, right? But because of this unique thread design and the core and the thread concepts, so AnyRidge always shows very good initial stability and then no drop down after that, after implant placement. So in many cases, you can do very early loading. Also, in many cases, you can do immediate loading. And the surface is another important factor on implant, right? So as you know, we developed the XP, surface treatment techniques with 5 years of research, and we merged with the special design of AnyRidge in 2012. So this is very unique with the blue color, and it can promise the fastest integration and very safe surface without any acid residue after surface treatment. So you can see the differences from this high magnified SCM image. So compared with the common SLA surface, XP has a very tiny micro roughness, which is calcium ion only, and it can provide much wider surface areas for osseointegration. So not only the speed of osseointegration, it can provide much bigger surface compared to SLA surface. That's why this is very safe and very fast osseointegration provided. Okay, and many doctors ask me calcium ion incorporation. The XP, the surface, it looks like HA coating, but this is totally different. This is XP, the surface is just a nanoscaled, only 200 nanometer scales, very thin and very strong binding of calcium ion into the titanium surface. So this is totally different from HA coating. No dislodge with the time. With this surface treatment, so we got the certificate from Korean Implant Foundation in Germany from 2017, and it continued until now. And MegaGen was one of the first certified company for the excellent surface treatments. Maybe most of you already know about this. So with this integration of unique shape and the surface treatment and the very good connection design, so we can do many difficult cases easily. So this is quite a complicated case. The patient was referred to me with failed implants, and even 4 to 6 weeks later, the socket was not filled. It's filled with bone, any regeneration in the bone. So its socket was very wide, but there was only 2 millimeter of available bone under the sinus floor. But how we can do this? How we can deal with this? Most of the doctors will put the bone graft first and wait 6 months again, try to place implants and wait 3 months again. So in total, we need almost 1 year to finish this single case. But I used the AnyRidge with excellent initial stability and with the shape of the implants. So you can see the remaining defects on this large socket tip. The remaining defect became very small. So I could do small bone graft with a simple collagen membrane, and I could do one-stage approach, which is very important. So only one surgery, one time. Then, only about 3 months after, so you can see the bone regeneration into the deep thread. So almost all the space between thread were filled with regenerated bone. And in 4 months, I took impression, and 5 months, all the prosthetic procedure was finished. And about 6.5 years later, you can see how wonderful result we acquired from these difficult situations. See? So you remember the initial stage was a very big socket defects with a limited height of bone, but in almost 7 years later, there was a bone overgrowth on the top of the implants and to the platform, so the bone was overgrown onto the platform. This is a really wonderful result, right? And not only this, we have millions of cases showing this bone overgrowth, which is very difficult to find with other implant systems. So let's see. I had a chance to see this case carefully during the preparation of this lecture. So the patient had many implants in 2003, almost 15 years ago. Right? But all the implants worked very well still. But when I see the intraoral X-ray, this was external hexed implants. And you can see the difference on the crystal bone responses. So this external hexed implant was placed in 2003 and follow-up visit in 2021. And this is another case showing the typical crystal socialization at the deeply placed external hexed implants. So there was a common sense when we used the external hexed implants. So it's a wide socializations around the implant top. Right? That's why our teachers recommended us not to place implants too deep because of this bone loss. But nowadays, with the excellent connections and the surface treatments, so you can see the completely different bone responses at the crystal level. This implant was placed in 2016 and had a follow-up in 2021, about 5 years later. But even at the implants which was placed very deep into position, but it has very good bone responses, right? No bone loss, no bone socialization, very small gaps between bone and the regenerated bone and the abutments. So we have implants like this nowadays. So just to compare what these two different implant systems. That's why we love internal compared to external, and we love AnyRidge compared to the other internal implant systems. Okay, this was just a small tips on the implant systems. Now, I'd like to talk about the new drilling systems, which is Densah Bur. I believe many of you already know about the Densah Bur. This is special drilling for osteodensification and the ridge expansion and the crystal sinus bone graft and the orthobone grafting. The ridge expansion and the orthobone grafting, maybe you don't feel that much with the Densah Bur. But I really enjoy osteodensification effects and the crystal sinus graft nowadays. I will show some clinical cases with special tips for you. This is much easier and faster than any other drilling techniques. So in 2017, I was invited to Dental XP Implant Summit held at the NYU, and there I was at the same stage with Dr. Salah Huais, who is the inventor of the Densah Bur. And we too recognized immediately we had the same concept on the bone. So we had the same concept, and he developed, Dr. Salah Huais developed the drill, and MegaGen developed the implant systems. But the basic concept was same. So it was really interesting. And I asked to Dr. Salah Huiz, explaining the synergic effect with the Densah Bur.
Predictably and reproducibly provide osteodensification, which is an autografting of the patient bone into the trabecular space. It works very well when the implant design have enough space between its threads, like the AnyRidge implant, to complement the effect of the compaction autografting.
Why AnyRidge system can especially work well with the Densah Bur is because AnyRidge has enough space between its thread. So, of course, any other implant system can work very well with the Versah Bur, but AnyRidge especially can work much better much better with the Densah Bur because of the design. And the drilling system is very simple. It's composed with 13 drills, 3 different lines, and 1 lens drill. It looks a bit complicated, but you can realize when you repeat to use this Densah Bur. There are 2 modes, cutting mode and the densifying mode. Cutting mode is clockwise. When you drive this drill clockwise, it works like a cutting mode. But when you count synchronwise, when you run the drills countersynchronwise, so it makes the bone denser. So we call it densifying mode. And we have a lot of articles on this work of Densah Bur. That we called it, not me, Dr. Saller called this kind of action as auto-bone grafting. Auto-bone grafting. Whenever you use the Densah Bur counterclockwise, then the bone is densified, and when you finish the drill, the densified bone comes back toward the implant surface. So we call this spring back effect. So immediately when you place implants, the implants can have a much wider bone implant context. This is another key point with the Densah Bur. So if you see this video, you can understand the densifying mode of the drilling. The right side is Densah Bur. The left side is just a standard drill, which run the counterclockwise. So on the Densah Bur, you can see the condensed hydrodynamic compression wave in the viscous materials, but with the standard drill, there is no effects like that. Okay, when you try to use the Densah Bur, you need to remember this one. Very simple mode. When you use the lens drill, you need to use clockwise, just like a normal drill. But from the next step, the first Densah Bur, you need to use the counterclockwise with almost the same speed with the standard drill, and with the pumping mode. So the heating, I had no experience. No, I didn't experience the overheating with Densah Bur, but you need to keep the pumping motion with the Densah Bur. So this is a case of bone ridge expansions. This can work. This kind of bone expansion mode can work only in this case. So which has cancerous bone inside and quite a strong cortical bone outside. If there is no strong cortical bone, the ridge expansion was very difficult in my hand. So remember, this can work, but not always. So instead of this, I'd like to show some very interesting case first. So this is another comparison between the standard drill and osteodensification. So even at the bone itself, you can see the differences, but from the images. So osteodensification mode, you can see the very strong, very much higher radiopesties. So from now, I try to show my clinical experiences. Actually, I didn't believe the effect of Densah Bur that much at the beginning, because I had the AnyRidge. With AnyRidge, I could do almost everything without problems. But with the Densah Bur, now I recognized much better to make a difficult case easy. So number 16, it was extracted, and when I opened the flap, I recognized that there is very big defects on the palatal side. So this is one of the difficult case to make a bone regeneration. So when we have a buccal bone loss with a sufficient height of palatal bone, that is quite easy because we can move the soft tissue quite easily. But when we have a very big defect, bone defects on the palatal side, it was not easy. But with the Densah Bur, as you see in this case, you can enlarge, expand the septal bone like this. So you can place implants just like into the normal bone. So there was almost no bone defects even into the palatal side. So it's very simple, and the other space, the bone defects can be filled with any kind of bone graft material. So the drill is very easy and very simple and very much prognostic. And I did customized abutments and the temporary, and finished everything in 4 months. So from the intraoral X-ray, you can see the excellent bone responses. So not only this, so this is another upper second molar case. When I extracted, as you see, there was very thin, very tiny, thin septal bone just in the middle of the tooth. And the available bone height was not very high, as you see. So how we can manage? With Densah Bur, it's very simple. Just use step-by-step Densah Bur, counterclockwise, of course. Then it can condense the loose bone and expand the septal bone, and even it can increase the height of available bone. So how easy it is. Right? Then place the implants. So as you see, there was no defects around the implants. And small extraction socket defects you can fill with any kind of bone graft material and one-stage approach, of course. So you can get very good initial stability. So this is after surgery. Then customized abutment and the temporary. The old rescue implant has some bone loss. But anyway, the second molar implant was successfully finished. At the lower molar, it's again same. So when I extracted number 36, so there was a small septal bone, but nowadays I have no headache. Okay, very easy to manage the septal bone. So look at this, how wide the septal bone can be expanded. and then place the implants very simply, and the one stage approach, then finish. So you can do this kind of surgery in 10 minutes. So in 2 months, you can see the densified, regenerated bone around the extraction socket. So in 3 months, 3.5 months, so all the procedure were finished. This is very interesting, right? And how to expand, how to make the large extraction socket simple. Okay? But on the sinus, you will feel another interesting, exciting point. Okay, so I will show you 4 or 5 cases, but the level of difficulty is a bit different. So look at this case. The number 16, 17 was seriously damaged with the periodontitis, and I extracted and waited some weeks. And this is just before implant surgery. You see how many millimeter available bone we have there? It's about 4 millimeter, 4 to 5 millimeter. So I hope you can try on this kind of case at the first time. 4 or 5 millimeter available bone is good candidates. And open the flap, and I put some videos. So it takes time, but so I will skip. I will go faster with the videos. But I will share with all this presentation material with you if you want. So don't hesitate to contact with our team in Lithuania. So when you use the lens drill, so it should be clockwise. Clockwise. Then you don't need to penetrate. You cannot go inside the sinus floor. Just a little bit less than the available bone. So in this case, just I use the lens drill only for 4 millimeter, no more than 5 millimeter. Then the next drill, so I usually use counterclockwise to expand the bone, and then at the same time to make it auto bone regeneration, auto bone grafting into the sinus area, step by step, same mode. I'm using 1000 RPM counterclockwise with the copious saline irrigation. Next drill, just repeat at the same length of the drilling, same depth of the drillings. Don't go too much, just 1 millimeter above the available bone. If the bone is 3 millimeter, you can go inside the bone only 4 millimeter, no more than that. Then you will be safe. Okay, step by step, and the number of drilling is up to your size, your choice of implant size. So after finishing the drill, you can see the osteodensification image on the socket, around the socket, and then still the sinus membrane is solid, right? It's sound, no perforation. Then it's time to do bone graft. If the patient has more than 5 millimeter bone, actually you don't need to do bone graft. You can just place 8 millimeter or 7 millimeter or 8.5 millimeter bone without the bone graft. But I try to recommend to try bone graft. Bone grafting is also very easy. Just counterclockwise with 1 step smaller diameter of Densah Bur. Counterclockwise, then in this counterclockwise mode can put the implant bone graft material inside the sinus, just like internal sinus bone graft. Very easy and very good, works very good. No need to use too much bone graft materials, just 3 to 4 spoons of allogenic bone. Dr. Salah Hui's recommend the allogenic bone, then the xenogenic or synthetic bone. Then place implants, just as normal. Then you will have a very good image on the X-ray. See how wonderful this image is. You can see the implant sinus floor still, right? And then you can see very beautiful bone grafted image into the sinus. It's very easy and almost, as you know, almost no swelling, no pain. Very easy healing and very good. This case was not recommended by Dr. Salah Hui's because the available bone was very thin, too less than the recommendation. How many millimeter of bone here? It's only less than 2 millimeter. Less than 2 millimeter, very thin bone. On the premolar area, there was about 6 to 7 millimeter bone. So this is no problem. The biggest problem is on the first molar, only 2 millimeter bone. But if you follow the principle of the Densah Bur, you will have a same result. See? So I just made the pinpoint with the Densah Bur. Then I enlarged with the next drills. See? I put the Densah Bur only 3 millimeter. The first black line is 3 millimeter. So I entered into the sinus only 1 millimeter because there is a 2 millimeter bone, available bone. So I'm put the tip of the implant 1 millimeter inside the sinus. And then I use the mixed bone grafter with the allograft and the synthetic bone with reverse mode. Same drilling mode, right? Not just counterclockwise, counterclockwise always. Same tapping mode, not drilling mode. In this case, tapping mode up to 3 millimeter, and then you can push the bone graft into the sinus. Then I placed AnyRidge Octa 1 and connected the scannable healing abutments to do one-stage approach in this 2 millimeter height of bone. That I could do because the Densah Bur condensed the loose bone and the bone grafted material was good. So even with the very limited height of bone, I could do one-stage approach. This is after surgery. So how beautiful the graft. See, from the CBCT, you can see the amount of bone grafted in the sinus. So compared to the original image, so it's really wonderful, right? So this kind of sinus bone graft became very easy, much less complications in my experience. So I customized the healing abutment, and I customized abutment and the PMMA temporary crown in 2 months. Almost 2 months, I could do prosthetics. And again, another case on the left maxillary arch, same, almost similar with the previous case. Serious periodontitis, and extracted and waited a little bit. See? So just a step by step. So measure the available bone height. And the first lens drill is a bit less than available bone height measured at the X-ray. Then you can just counterclockwise drilling continuously with the bigger size of drill. Then you can have this result and place implants with 3 spoonfuls of allogenic bone graft. Then you will have this image. So how beautiful it is. Huh? So no perforation, and the sinus looks great. And then the regeneration speed is also very very excellent because we don't cut the bone, just re-drill and condense the bone alongside the implant length. So the osseointegration and the regeneration is faster than other techniques. So in 4 months, finished. So you can see the regenerated bone inside the sinus. This is another interesting case. It's a full mouth case. The patient had large pneumatized sinuses on both sides, and I decided to compare with different surgical techniques. On the left, with less bone, less available bone, I decided to do lateral window approach. On the right side, I decided to do the Densah Bur. You can see the both sides. Okay? Open the flap, and I started with the left side first. See, lateral window was made and the membrane was elevated. Then drilling was made. This is after drilling. Then bone grafting. This is a very common techniques. And then I place the bone implants. So this is after implant placement. And on the right side, as I mentioned, I decided to do Densah Bur and need to measure the available height as exactly as possible. Then step-by-step drillings. There are some, you can use the stopper systems. So, this is a separate kit from the Versah systems. But anyway, if you worry about the penetration, sudden penetration of the membrane, you can use these stopper systems. But normally I don't use. This is quite easy system. So at the beginning, in three or 4 cases, you may need some guide. But after that, you can have, when you had the feeling to deal with the cortical bone of the sinus, then you don't need to use the other guided systems. See? Okay, so you can see, okay, so you see, it was jumped into the sinus, but this is too sudden, so don't try to move this much, just slowly, you can open the window and the sinus floor and move the autogenous bone into the sinus bone graft. Then this is another video from Dr. Salah Huais. So as you see from the video, that soft tissue is a PRP, a PRF membrane. So when you use the Densah Bur counterclockwise, it doesn't penetrate, it doesn't tear the membrane. So this you can trust. Not 100%, of course. In most of the case, but you need to be careful when you deal with a very thin membrane. Then drilling finished. Now it's time to do bone graft. Same bone graft material I used, the allograft mixed with the synthetic bone, half and half, and with whole blood. And I did the bone graft with counterclockwise, tapping mode, counterclockwise. Then I'm checking the integrity of the sockets. In some cases, when you place the bone graft material too much or too dense into the sockets, it can be plugged. The socket can be locked with the bone graft material. So in this case, just use a small diameter of Densah Bur to make opening, another opening before implant placement. Don't be embarrassed. Okay? Just penetrate the sockets. So we call this kind of phenomenon as a spin-off. The implant doesn't move into the socket. So in that case, don't be embarrassed. Just remove the fixture and make a small. Use the small hole to open the orifice. Then try again with the implants. Then the stability of the implants will be also very good. The implant was completely replaced. So compared to the original conditions, you can see the different bone grafting, the different shape of the sinus bone graft. On the left, I did a lateral window and placed the bone graft and the implants. So the dome, the grafted material made the dome shape. But on the right side, I used the Densah Bur and grafted it into each socket. So it looks like a camel's back. From the CVCT, you can see the shape of the graft. The same. The bone graft is all around the newly placed implants. So no need to worry about the regeneration. You can save the material compared to this side, compared to the left side. Much more bone graft should be used on the lateral sinus bone grafting. Anyway, both has a good quality of regeneration. And then I connected the customized abutment and the PMMA temporary from here to here. So how it took almost 4 months from the surgery, but the result is really good, and the patient was very much satisfied. Now he has the temporary, full mass temporary PMMA bridges almost finished. Maybe next week I can deliver the final restoration. Yeah, this is another point, complication with the Densah Bur. See, let's see this. So the teeth were extracted because of periodontitis. Then soft tissue was healed. The socket was, the crestal bone was quite irregular still, and the available bone was not enough, only about 2 millimeter. So in this case, I carefully drilled with Densah Bur, but when I checked after the final drilling, I found that there was a small opening, small tearing from the through the socket wall. So in this case, how we can manage? If there is more than 5 millimeter bone, original bone, so you can just place without the bone graft, just place implants. So there will be nothing to happen. But in this case, the available bone was only 2 millimeter, 2 to 3 millimeter, less than 3 millimeter. So I had to open the lateral window to the sinus bone graft. This is small opening, so it was not difficult to manage. Opening the lateral window and membrane elevation and the small collagen membrane placed just underneath of the penetration, perforation, then bone graft and placed implants. Just a common way of the sinus bone graft with lateral window techniques. So this was after surgery. Nothing happened, but it was quite, it took much longer than my expectation. So Densah Bur looks not so serious, but I found this is really something. So you can simplify your surgical technique in some cases like this, septal bone and thin internal sinus bone graft. So you can have very good very good results. So I have almost five set of Densah Bur nowadays in my clinic, because in many cases, I'm using the Densah Bur in cooperation together with the AnyRidge systems. So in my practice, the Densah Bur became one of my favorites with AnyRidge systems. AnyRidge system itself solved many problems, but with the new drilling systems, so I feel so happy. I strongly recommend for you to try the Densah Bur. I bet you will not regret. And the other topics, the biology-based GBI techniques and the maximize the aesthetics with root membrane techniques and the other improvement on the distal evolution will be continued. I hope we can work together for the better future. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope to see you again.
Thank you, Dr. Park, for really outstanding presentation. I was really pleased to take a look through all the contraindications converting into indications to place the implants finally. As I know, we received several questions from the audience, so if you may, just answer one by one. And I think also to all the attendees, if you will have any question, please do not hesitate and write them down in the chat.
Let me raise the volume. I think volume is a minute. Your question.
All of the questions are in the chat zone, so if you may answer these ones, it would be very perfect. I can read them one by one if you prefer.
Okay, I can see the question.
Okay. Go ahead.
Our team already summarized the questions from the audience. Okay, the first question was, how long does the average osteodensification procedure take? Osteodensification procedure actually is not long period of time. So when we use counterclockwise with the Densah Bur, the bone chips ground from the drilling procedure will be inside the cancerous bone. And then after your implant placement, the condensed bone will come back immediately into the space between the thread. So osteodensification is only, in my mind, is only during after implant placement, the autogenous bone comes back into the space of the thread. So bone contact will be much faster. So the average osteodensification procedure take is not very important actually in my mind. Okay, let me continue the next question. So can we use only final drill of Densah Bur to prepare the socket in D3 type bone, or do we need to follow the procedure from the first drill? Yes, it's better to use the first drill of Densah Bur if you want to condense or if you want to expand the septal bone. If you want to combine the conventional drill and the Densah Bur together, okay, you can use, but the amount of bone we are dealing with implant placement is very limited. So if you use the conventional drill first, then Densah Bur later, so the amount of condensation can be limited. So if you make a plan, it's better to start with the Densah Bur from the first drill. It was good in my experience. And then, what are the advantages for the patients when the dentist is using Densah Bur? Just as you saw from my presentation, so as I told you, when I met Dr. Sala Weiss almost 5 years ago, so we recognized each of us, both of us, start to think about the importance of bone biology. And then we used MegaGen, developed the implant system with the same concept, and Dr. Sala made this Densah Bur. Densah Bur can be used with any other implant systems, actually. What is the advantage of patients? Yes, the surgery will be much simpler, so patients will have much less pain, and the unloading period at the implant placement will be shortened. So patients can have less invasive surgery and faster final result. So that will be the biggest advantage. Actually, that is almost all the advantage which we want.
Okay.
And, number four, okay. How compressed bone affect healing time? Does it prolong it regarding lower vascularization in hard bone? Yes, I have many questions like this. So what's going to happen if we use condensation, if you condense the bone with Densah Bur at the hard bone? But if you feel the bone is very hard, like D1 and the D2, I don't recommend to use Densah Bur. In this case, rather than counterclockwise, it's better to use clockwise, just like a conventional drill. Then, because of there are 8 flutes, 8 braid with the Densah Bur. So the drilling process will be very smooth. Normally, even our drill has 3 flutes or 4 flutes, 4 braid. So with the increase of the burr, the diameter of burr, it can be wobbled. But with the Densah Bur, it has 8 flutes, so it's a very smooth feeling. It will be very smooth, even at the hard bone. So that can be another advantage. So at the hard bone, very hard bone, you don't need to compress. Just use clockwise, okay? And the implant placement. And the next question, do we have to use the full length of the Densah Bur drill, or we can use just for first several thread of the implants where the widest part of the implant is? So this drilling procedure is quite different from other drill. Normally, each company make the shape of drill to coincide with the fixture shape, right? It's very similar to make the minimum difference between picture and the drill, right? But Densah Bur, it has a spring back effect. So if you make a little bit wider osteotomy socket, when you place the implants, all the compressed bone comes back. So no need to worry about the bigger drilling in most cases. So why we don't use Densah Bur for the full length of Densah Bur? So you have to use the full length. So full length means the same length of the implants, right? If you want to place a 10 millimeter long implants, so you need to drill to 10 millimeter depth of the Densah Bur. So it's synchronized. Okay, number 6, please share 3 arguments why do you recommend to use Densah Bur with AnyRidge? Densah Bur itself is good. AnyRidge itself is also very good. Densah Bur with AnyRidge, it makes a synergy, especially as Dr. Salah announced on the video, if there is enough more space between thread, the spring back impact has more value. So if you use the tiny thread with less space, the Densah Bur, the effect of Densah Bur can be limited. So Densah Bur with AnyRidge is a really good combination. So as you know, the knife thread of AnyRidge can be engaged with the bone very good, but there is some space, right? As you may saw the histology of Densah Bur, AnyRidge cases, but this space can be filled with new regeneration, right? It takes about 4 weeks, but with the Densah Bur, in a few days, 2 or 3 days,
wow,
this space can be filled almost with a new autogenous bone. So it's very fast.
So basically, if you want to become a Superman in the dental office, you have to use AnyRidge and the Densah Bur.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Got it.
Exactly.
All right.
So, and that is the best one. Yeah. What is the next? This the first argument, and the second argument, the drilling itself is very smooth. So patients' confidence will increase. When we have drilling, if there is a wobbling, patient's head can be shaken. But in this case, it's very good. And again, on the sinus and the limited bone width is really wonderful. Yes, I don't open the lateral window that much nowadays. Even there is a very limited bone under the sinus floor. The Densah Bur is my first choice to try. And then in some cases, I can find some tearing on the sinus membrane. In that case, I have to open the lateral window. But if there is a 5 millimeter available bone, so I don't open and I don't bone graft, just place 8 millimeter or 7 millimeter or 8.5 millimeter AnyRidge. That's it. Very easy to do sinus bone graft. Number 7, next question. Okay, is it not recommended to use the burr in D1 or D2 bone? Yes, no need. You can use a conventional drill made by us. But if you want to make a very smooth drilling, yes, you can use the Densah Bur as well. And there will be there will not be no wobbling. Just go very smooth. But it will take a little bit longer time for the drilling because the space between fluid is very, very tiny. So the bone chips, it's not easy to be extracted during drilling. So pumping, you should take care about the pumping action. Okay, number 8. Does the bone compressed by drilling create additional inflammation or remodeling for osseointegration? No. In my experience, I started to use the Densah Bur almost 1 year before, and I had several, I think more than 100 cases. I'm not using Densah Bur only. I choose the Densah Bur from time to time according to the case, but I tried more than 100 cases. There is no overheating so far. So maybe it's because I choose Densah Bur, especially at the loose bone. So it was a very, very much satisfactory. Otherwise, I don't recommend to you. Then, number 9, don't I need to use AnyRidge final drill at the Densah Bur to place implants? Yes, no need to use. No need to use final drill of AnyRidge. Just with the Densah Bur, you can do drilling from the first drill to the final drill. So no need to use the final drill of AnyRidge. EPS, I have to do clockwise drilling with AnyRidge final drill, but I can maintain the dense bond from dense. Yes, no need to use the final drill. Okay. Then 10. So how do you recommend using Densah Bur when the bone thickness is less than 4 millimeter? And what about the D1 case? Maybe this question was intended for the hard bone, right? Limited ridge width with hard bone. 4 millimeter. It's the same with the. I think it's the same with the septal expansion case. On the septal, as I presented, it's limited, right? But with the step-by-step drilling with Densah Bur, the cortical bone can be expanded. It's the same. But with the thin bone, there should be quite a strong cortical bone outside, and there should be marrow space inside. Then it's a similar principle with the ridge split technique. If there is no cancerous bone, it's almost impossible to do ridge expansion case, right? It's exactly same. So from the CBCT, you need to check the dense cortical bone outside, then you can do step-by-step drilling. So in this case, I still have some doubts. Even you expanded the bone, the buccal plate and the lingual plate will be quite limited, right? The implant itself was placed into the bone without any exposure. That's good sign, but still we have a very limited buccal bone. So I prefer to place some bone graft outside the cortical bone to make more thickness on the alveolar bone. So I think that will be better, but I don't have enough evidences, just conceptually. What about the D1 case? As I told you, just use clockwise, like a conventional drill. No need to use counterclockwise. And it should be careful on the pumping action. And number 11, how the link procedures with Densah Bur affect ISQ value in AnyRidge system. So I didn't make statistics, but just by feeling, from the beginning, the ISQ value will be higher than higher ISQ value than implant placement with the conventional drill. So you can compare place implants with the regular drill and the place implants after the Densah Bur. You can check the ISQ. So immediately, this Densah Bur will show higher ISQ value because all the surface of AnyRidge implants will be surrounded by the sound bone. So, and the procedure with the time. Sorry, I don't have evidence. Thank you. Sorry. And next question. So, how will the drilling procedure be determined in system with the protocol based on the bone density, such as AnyRidge with the Densah Bur system? I think it's a similar question. Right? So, my preference with the Densah Bur is on the soft bone and the limited bone. At the hard bone, hard bone with limited width, thin ridge. I think that you can use the Densah Bur for the ridge splitting. But in my clinical experience, clinical cases, so the biggest number was septal expansion for the immediate implant placement, and then the next bigger instance was on the sinus floor. So that two are more than enough in my case. Then next question. I saw the Densah Bur makes more ridge width to the buccal and the lingual direction. Is this exaggeration or it works? Yes, it's case by case. If you have a thin ridge on the upper premolar area, even you do counterclockwise with the Densah Bur, it doesn't expand that much. In many cases, the thin cortical bone will be broken for the dehiscence, but it's better than not to try the Densah Bur. With the conventional drill, with the clockwise, definitely it will make a big dehiscence defect. But with the Densah Bur, even there is some cracks on the cortical bone, yes, almost all the implants will be inserted inside the bone. But at the hard bone, especially on the mandibular premolar area, thin ridge. So in most cases, the cortical bone is much denser than the upper jaw. And then inside, there is a thin, but definitely the cancerous bone. So in this case, you can use first drill clockwise, and from the next drill on the counterclockwise. There are 12 drills, 12 different drills on the Densah Bur kits, except the lens drill as the first drill. So there are procedures: taper, straight. Straight, taper, straight. So if you repeat to use the Densah Bur, you can understand the drilling process. No need to use whole drills for the expansion or for the sinus bone graft. But at the beginning, just follow the diameter of the. You can use all drills step by step. But with the experience, you can skip the next drill. Some drills you can skip some drills. So ridge expansion, I don't have enough number of ridge expansion case, but I have hundreds of septal bone expansion. So it will be similar. Then, okay, this is the end of the question. Any more question?
So if we didn't receive any questions more, so I would like to thank you all for the attending today. And thank you so much, Dr. Park, for the answers that you gave and answered all of these really good questions from the audience. One more thing for all of you to take a note is that MegaGen is organizing one of the biggest online events with more than 1,000 participants from all around the globe on the 1st of May, which is MegaGen Forum. The forum will also introduce Densah Burs into various clinical cases, so don't miss it and register now. We have posted a registration link in the chat area below. So once again, thank you all for your attendance and see you on the 1st of May in MegaGen Forum. So thank you guys once again and see you next time.
Thank you. See you soon again.
See you guys. Bye.